hapon mga kababayan. Ito po ang Kababayan Today kung saan ngayong hapon makikilala po natin ang ilan sa mga miyembro ng Filipino-American Symphony Orchestra. Pero para dun sa mga patuloy na nanonood ng Kababayan Today na araw-araw po sumusubaybay sa amin, nitong Lunes pinakilala po namin sa inyo si Kababayan Pride Fritz Friedman na ngayon po ay isang California Commissioner at Sony Pictures SVP or Senior Vice President. Ito po ang pagpapatuloy ng aming panayam sa kanya.
I always thought of being Filipino as being special. You know, as you know, as you don't know, but I was raised in Boston, and there weren't a lot of Filipinos. So I left Manila when I was 5 and a half, and I went to Boston. My parents brought me out there. My father was working at the Boston City Hospital. My mother was a nurse at the Boston University Medical Center.
Tita Nena.
Tita Nena, exactly. She really, a lot of people knew both my parents because they took care of so many. A lot of the Filipinos who had sent their kids to school in Boston, you know, found their way at our home. We just loved. It was like one big family. But to get back to what I was saying, I think that it was whenever anything Filipino came on TV, everyone in the house made a big deal about it. You know, oh my God, there's a Filipino movie about Bataan.
Right.
So you'd watch it, and some of the people would talk Tagalog. So my entire life, being Filipino was always special. Okay. Now, I have met some Filipinos, I'm very surprised about this, who aren't crazy about being Filipino. Yes. It's really a worst kind of self-loathing. Right. Do you know? Exactly. And that's an entire discussion. But I was lucky I didn't have that. So, you know, for me, it was always people who may not have known what the Philippines was, but I was really happy to tell them what they were. So that was, for me, it was always a benefit. But I never thought of it, never got in my way. Right. I just thought of myself as Fritz, and I did what I wanted to do. I haven't really come up against a lot of direct racism, if that's what the subtext of that question is. I think if you make it an issue, it will be an issue. If you don't make it an issue, it's not going to be an issue. I think if you make it an issue, you just make people around you uncomfortable, and then you'll want you around. I think that's. I think if you're smart, you do a good job. You know, you don't make issues out of things. Just get on with it, because it's a profession, you know. It's not your real. It is part of your life, but it's not your private life. So there's a professional context in which you have to work. And my personal feeling is one of the things is not to make a big political issue of your personal life in a work situation. It's uncomfortable. And it's not just about your race. It's about problems at home, or you know, relationships, the divorce, or financial. I'm sorry. There's nothing. I don't even know you that well.
You go to work to work. Do your best.
Right. I got my own issues. I got my own problems to deal with. Not too many, but when they do pop up. So I'm happy to lend an ear to a friend. You need to do that, but don't monopolize my time with it.
Well, that said, Fritz, I know that we're also lucky to have somebody like you speaking for us and representing. Where do you? I know that you're very passionate. You just mentioned very passionate about being Filipino, and I can just assume from that answer that you're also passionate about moving the Filipino community forward. Where do you want to see this community going?
Well, before continuing, I'd like to also say I'm very proud of being an American. I mean, we cannot forget that. I'm really a Filipino-American because I don't really speak Tagalog. I go back to Manila quite often. I'm going back in about 3 weeks for a few days. But the foremost thing is that also I'm an American. So I do a lot of things in the non-Filipino sector as well. It's just that my own natural predisposition is to be with my
Kababayan.
Ethnic party group. So moving the Filipino agenda forward, if you will, I think that's a very individual task. All I can do, I never started out to be any sort of role model. You know, I just do my work, and you wake up one morning and you've done so many things, and they just kind of accumulate, and you have this, what they call the oeuvre, the body of work that you, and you can just do it by example. I'm not, like, some people are very conscious of everything they do, and there's a strategic reason why they do something, so eventually down the pike they might get. It was never that way for me. It was just like, oh, you know, it's like when I worked with the veterans. I found that out because I was reading the LA Times, and I read about these veterans and what they did during the Second World War, and that the government was not giving them the benefits. And I just sat back and I said, well, that is just simply wrong. But it just, I said, well, there was no question. Well, I'm going to do something tomorrow about it.
And you
make
did.
Some phone calls. I did.
You did. You went with Blue Diamond Phillips.
Blue Diamond Phillips to Washington to testify.
Yeah.
But I also had the support of other Filipino-American talent, like Tia Carrero was incredible there, and Dean Devlin, the producer, and Rob Schneider as well, and a number of other people who really lent their name to raise the profile for the cause and raise awareness, and then ultimately the veterans did get most of their benefits.
Yeah.
I think they're still having some issues now, but at that time it had been resolved.
Well, you know, we have a lot to thank you for, and just by being a role model, thank you. And thank you for coming on the show. I wanted to bring Fritz in because I wanted for us to learn from his story, because certainly very inspiring. And you do think outside the box, and I can see that with the way you answer questions. And that's a good tip from you. Be different, be yourself, be different, and never be afraid to go against
Well,
the
I think that it's to be thoughtful, to be present. Someone asks you a question, well, really listen to the question, and don't give this cliche response back, because I think what people respond to is authenticity in the end. No matter what you look like, they know that you're giving an honest answer. That's very refreshing, because especially you interview people day and night, it must be the most awful, boring thing to have people give you the cliche answers. What is the point?
Right. Well, thank you so much. That's the point. Learning from Fritz, learning from your story, and getting inspiration. Thank you, and more power to you.
Thank you very much for having me.